We were leaving Afghanistan with dignity and strength. Biden left in shame and defeat, a defeat like this country has never suffered before. This month marks the 2-year anniversary of the most embarrassing event in the history of our country, Joe Biden's disastrous surrender in Afghanistan. This was one of the horrible, horrible events in our country's past, leaving thousands and thousands of Americans behind. We don't even know the number. 13 dead warriors, hundreds of civilians killed and horribly wounded, including soldiers beyond the 13 soldiers that were so badly wounded. And $85 billion worth of the finest military equipment anywhere in the world abandoned, handed over, call it what you want, to the Taliban. It was a surrender. Never before has there been such an egregious display of incompetence and weakness on the world stage.
We know that this man is incapable of telling the truth.
As I recall, and I think it's laid out in the Seagar's report, the special IG for Afghanistan, it's about 80 some odd billion dollars worth of military aid total. That's everything from food and building barracks and uniforms and boots to include equipment over 20 years. Right. And then he cites, I think it's 7.2 billion of military equipment, U.S. manufactured military equipment that is with the Afghan security forces. That's Afghan owned equipment, not American equipment. Every piece of American equipment that the American military owned came out with us with Scott Miller, or he destroyed it on site. And that's a fact. So the idea that the American...
So this attack on Biden for not taking the equipment back is total bunk.
The Doha Agreement that President Trump and his administration entered into with the Taliban required the complete withdrawal of U.S. forces and diplomatic. That was the agreement that the Trump administration entered into. You said that had we not complied with that agreement, that there would be, quote, open war with the Taliban, right? That they had kept their agreement not to attack U.S. forces, which allowed us to withdraw and reduce our footprint. So here today, had we not withdrawn and not ended the war, would we be at open war with the Taliban?
I think the probability is greater than not that the Taliban would have reinitiated combat operations on 1 May or 2 May. The Doha Agreement says all force out by 1 May. The current administration, the State Department negotiated with the Taliban to get that extended, Zal-Khalilzad did, to get that extended until September, I guess it was, to buy some additional time. But there's little question in my mind that had the United States, that either president's agreement to withdraw, if we didn't withdraw 100%, then we would have been back at war with the Taliban. That's right.
With due respect, Grant, I mean, like, veterans, being one, right, and our friends are over there. Right. We followed this closely for multiple administrations, and we know that Trump's administration's efforts here were fairly weak. That they were trying to limit the number of people that would get out, and so there was coordination problems.
Joe, I'm gonna cut you. I'm already weak. I'm already low on time, Joe. Cut him off, please. Cut him off now. Cut him off now. You're not going to blame this on President Trump on my show.
We know that Donald Trump's entire life is a lie. So why would we be surprised that while he sits around and talk about what Biden left in Afghanistan and his followers keep blaming Biden for how he left Afghanistan and not even acknowledging that it was Donald Trump who actually made the deal for America to leave Afghanistan. And if Biden would have tried to keep American troops in Afghanistan, we would have been in violation of said agreement made by yours truly, the lying Trump, the lying Trump. So the idea that he's lying about $81 billion worth of American equipment that's left in Afghanistan is absolutely ludicrous. But so is his life. So is he. We find out now that all this money he has is real, only in his mind. Only in his mind. He can't pay the $464 million owed to the state of New York, and he might be at risk of losing Mar-a-Lago if he doesn't come up with that cash by Monday. Donald Trump's entire life is a grift. He says something, banks go along with it. He says something, white racists go along with it. He says something, political pundits go along with it. He says something, the news media repeats it without validating any of it. And what happens? Because he says something and banks went along with it, he defrauded them. Because he says something and the news media went along with it, people are confused about where the state of our democracy is. Because he says something and it's not verified by all the people that should be verifying everything Donald Trump said, America's worse off. We sit here and pretend that this man has an ounce of morality, when in actuality, we see he cares about nothing beyond his body structure. He is disgusting for that reason. Donald Trump lies about how much equipment and money was left in Afghanistan and will not even tell his followers he's the reason we're no longer in Afghanistan.
Mail-in ballots are very dangerous. There's tremendous fraud involved and tremendous illegality. So you have cases of fraudulent ballots where they actually print them and they give them to people to sign. Maybe the same person signs them with different writing, different pens. I don't know. There's a lot of things can happen. Anytime you have mail-in ballots, you have corrupt elections. I don't care what it is. It's anybody that wants it, they're corrupt, and that includes Republicans.
Anybody who wants mail-in voting is corrupt. Is that right? Did I get that right? Okay, so how about your daughter-in-law?
If we want to compete and win, we must embrace early voting. The days of waiting until Election Day to vote are over. We have to encourage everyone who can legally vote to go do so as soon as they legally can.
Republicans are realizing that after years of attacks on our elections, they kind of need to change strategy. They can't just rely on making it as hard as possible to vote in person anymore, because Democrats, despite their faults, have figured out ways to organize around it by building grassroots infrastructure to get out the vote, to get people ready to vote by mail. These are things that ensure everybody has a chance to vote. It's not fair to you if you're an hourly worker and you can't get out of work before the polls close. So voting by mail is a good option to make sure you have a say in our elections. And now Republicans are realizing, oh wait, we need to change course ASAP. So of course they're now realizing they need to prioritize mail-in ballots too. Because in many places in this country, because of Republicans, voting is a pain in the ass. They've deliberately made it difficult to make sure that only the wealthy and most privileged can do it easily. As a result, more and more people are turning to mail-in ballots. And Republicans realize they can't just keep attacking it because they kind of need it too. But of course, there are some limitations.
Your priority is to ensure a transparent election, and I see that the RNC and the Trump campaign filing a lawsuit in a battleground state to stop counting ballots past Election Day. What are you doing with regard to suing Nevada right now?
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. You cannot have ballots counted, Maria, after elections are over. And right now, that is one of the many lawsuits we have out across this country to ensure that just that happens, that we have a free, fair, and transparent election. So in Nevada, as you pointed out, we are saying we want on Election Day that to be the last day that mail-in ballots can be counted.
They're flip-flopping. They are pivoting. They are changing course. But on that topic, check this out.
I love $29 donors more than I love those big, fat, beautiful $1 million donors.
Just like with mail-in ballots, Trump's team is now realizing they have to rely on small dollar donors. They need a grassroots movement too, because that's been the stronghold for Democrats for years. Bernie's campaign was propelled by it, and you're seeing more and more progressive Democrats across the country rely on individual small dollar donors because it's a more sustainable way to run a campaign. Trump's fundraising numbers are in the toilet.
In another sign that the former president's legal issues are translating into financial headaches, new campaign fundraising numbers show him trailing Team Biden by nearly $40 million.
He can't just rely on big donors because they don't want to touch him. You saw how they moved around him in the primary, but now that they're stuck with him, they're not rushing to him. In fact, many of his donors are throwing money behind RFK, so they need to appeal to the small dollar donors. But even there, they're hitting challenges.
But yeah, the Republican messaging on low dollar fundraising is abysmal. Every time I look at my phone, I get a text message saying, give right now or we'll shoot your dog and light your house on fire. It's like, how is that motivating someone to donate?
Christy, no?
Yeah, so I get all the Dems, I signed up for their different donation. I get a nice text from John Tester every morning. Good morning. It's a beautiful day today. I would really appreciate if you could give $8. If not, no big deal. Here's what I'm going to be doing on the campaign trail today. Thanks so much. Here's a link. So it's a problem within these Republican digital firms that are just so unimaginative. They have no message whatsoever, and they're completely overwhelming the Republican donor base. base that did not sign up to have their phone numbers and emails just bombarded.
She's even saying they don't have a message. They don't have anything to run on. She knows the party's in shambles because she could see it. And she's saying the quiet part out loud. They're really struggling. They need to get the base involved and donating because Biden has a monumental war chest he's been building up for years. Again, this is an infrastructure thing. The Democrats are by no means perfect, and there are plenty of reasons to criticize them, but they've figured out a way to respond to these anti-democratic attacks. They figured out a way to get small dollar donors involved, to get people on the ground organizing and getting people ready to vote. And now with Trump's campaign really struggling, they're turning to those strategies. They're turning to things that they once demonized, the things that they try to outlaw. This is how desperate they're getting, but this is a real opportunity for Democrats to jump on that, to make it clear in their messaging that Trump and his team are unreliable. They're flip-flopping. They're now endorsing strategies and tactics that they previously tried to prohibit. And if they can do that, we might see a different outcome in November.